welcome back to Out of the Dark. I am your host, Niles Benghauser, and today we've got guest Paulo Chlebecek, world traveler, IT aficionado. How are you doing?
Oh, well, I'll agree to that. I'm okay. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad we could make some time for this. You're a busy guy.
Yeah.
Hard to nail down.
Running around all the time.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners for
Sure.
those who aren't familiar.
Sure. Paulo of Paulo Tech, been around in the Prescott area as well as online for, 2003, 2006, it became official. And of course, I'm doing a technology advisor, technology consulting for various companies and people throughout the northern Arizona and about 13 different states. People move and stick with me, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I find really wonderful about our industry. We can work from anywhere in the world.
No kidding. Yes, as long as you got a good connection. And I have fiber, gigabit fiber up and down. So that's nice. Yeah. Very nice.
Well, yeah. And you've been able to put that to the test in your travels.
Absolutely. Most definitely. And it's convenient when it's fiber right up to the modem. So that's that's a fun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes things work really well. So the clients aren't waiting for me. I'm waiting for their slow internet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to be on that side of it.
Yeah. No kidding. Right on top of it. Anyway.
Good. Well, I wanted to, since we have two IT brains in the room today, I wanted to take some time to talk about getting back to basics. Something I bring up pretty frequently because I think as a society, it's more important than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
The basics of good cyber hygiene and good security practices are so effective, and even with some of these new emerging threats, it's effective. People get scared about AI, for instance. And they're like, well, what are we going to do with these AI attacks that we're having? How do we defend against it? Well, step one, back to basics.
Back to basics. Make it simple. So the problem is a lot of people find it overwhelming. They hear about breaches all the time. Well, we talked about this before. Another word for breach is violation. And that's really what it is. It's violating your space, your data that's important to you. They don't really care necessarily that it's private. That doesn't matter. They want to see what can they make out of it. How can they use it to make money with? That is what's awful and terrible. And much to the chagrin of our financial advisor that we just had, I'm beginning to hate money because people do such terrible things just to make a buck. And that's what we're trying to stop. We're trying to stop these nut jobs that have nothing else better to do, or they're forced to work for these companies and wherever, Nigeria, wherever, and that they then try to exploit people. And they do that rather successfully, sadly, every day.
Yeah. When I get those scam calls, lately I actually haven't been getting many. Some of the spam filtering, I guess, on my phone's starting to work finally.
That's good.
But when I used to get those scam calls, I would try to have a conversation with the scammer. And sometimes I'd just play with them and lead them on.
Right.
But other times I wanted to really find out. So one day I got one of these scammers. They were calling, your car's warranty is expired, whatever. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, we both know this is a scam. Let's cut the crap. But why are you doing this? And I got him to talk to me.
Oh, really?
He didn't hang up on me.
Okay.
And what became apparent very quickly is that a lot of the motivation for these people is a very deep-rooted racism, ultimately. He was criticizing and kind of cussing me out for being an American and oh, you guys have all this money, yada yada, and it was
being selfish with it.
I mean, he had just a very nasty attitude, not knowing who I am or anything, but wants to steal my money. But a lot of hatred for sure in that world of cybercrime, and I suppose crime in general, maybe. But
well, there's definitely an emotional component that they're probably not willing to admit to even to themselves. That then says, I have to do this, whether it's to feed their family, whether it's to get back at rich people, whatever the case is, they're motivated or forced, which is another thing. You can find documentaries about that that they are indeed people who are forced or feel that they have to do these terrible things. And I often wanted to ask these people, I've done that as well. I've done the same kind of thing where you lead them on and try to figure out what it is. And sometimes I just say, what you're doing is terrible. You should be ashamed of yourself, and then hang up. And then I realize, you know what? That won't stop them. That's not enough to stop them. That's why we have to have tools to stop them with.
Mm-hmm.
No question.
And one of the biggest tools is education.
For a certainty. Absolutely. We were talking about an article that that you had sent me that I thought is really appropriate. It's by a Lisa Schiller. She's one of the Wisconsin Better Business Bureau leaders or personnel there. And as a business owner, very often things happen and it's not something that they're aware of. In other words, there are components or little pieces of compromises that happen. They don't realize it. So, for example, one of her 9 crucial data privacy stats for small businesses is 68% of security breaches involved a human element. So what does that mean? People are clicking on links that they shouldn't be, whether that's because they check their personal email at work or they're checking their business email and clicking on links that they shouldn't. It's so simple. And that's what we need, what we mean by basics. It needs to be simple. That's a simple thing. Don't do that.
And we hear that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to clients, both at businesses and residential, that they know, oh, I shouldn't click on links, or I shouldn't click on bad links. Well, where's the gap here then? If everyone kind of knows that advice.
Why does that happen so often? I think they might get fooled. They get an email that says, which has happened to one of my clients, they get an email that says, oh, this is an invoice from so-and-so, one of their vendors. Well, what happened was their vendor got attacked, got their email, and then started phishing, which is spelled PH with a PH, that then sent them an email. Oh, by the way, you owe us so-and-so here, click on this invoice. And that's it. And that's all it takes. So something that simple can be avoided if you're just a little bit more cautious or curious in a way that would say, no, this is not right. And then you avoid it. It's that simple.
And I think it depends on who you are, but especially with younger individuals, maybe they think it can't happen to them.
Yeah.
I was talking to a buddy who I don't get to see him very often, so we were catching up, and he was talking about his son. Well, he was starting college, and he just got engaged, and big life events and exciting stuff. But as we talked, he told me about this thing that had just happened to his son, and it kind of turned everything upside down. So he got one of those emails, and it said something to the effect of, we need you to contact us. Your identity's been stolen, and you need to get it fixed. And and he calls them. Next thing you know, they're asking for money, and he's paying this, and they took every cent.
Oh, that's painful.
Through a series of very unfortunate conversations and events, they convinced him to hand over every penny.
Wow.
He just got engaged. He's got a wedding to plan for. He had to drop out of college so that he could get another job and try and recover.
Awful.
And when they take the money, it's usually through like a wire transfer, or they'll have you send cash.
Yeah.
Wait,
so
you
anonymous.
can't get it back.
Yeah. Cryptocurrency, whatever.
And he's in his like 22, I think, at the time.
Terrible. And that's the problem with that kind of motivation for money. That's kind of why I'm beginning to hate money, because it's not that I'm going to give you all mine, but people do terrible things because they feel that they have to, that is the only way that they can make money. And sadly, there's just, if that one finally figures out, okay, this is bad, there's going to be 10 more to take their place. It's just that kind of simple.
It's a thriving industry, unfortunately.
It's working, it's paying. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't continue to do this kind of thing. Whether North Korea or Russia, whatever the case is, they're out there in mass. They have buildings full of these kinds of people. You can look that up yourself. That's all they do. Scam people, try to take advantage of people, send them links that look convincing.
Mm-hmm.
People sometimes set up websites that are, and I've seen this before with several clients. They sent me, this is the link that they clicked on. And of course I have tools that prevent bad things from happening. And I click on it and it's like, this looks like exactly like a PayPal page.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. So it's legitimately looking, but it's not. They just steal your information.
Mm-hmm.
Awful.
And we hear about these things, like you hear things, right? It's around and you hear about these things all the time, but I kind of wonder if people don't realize how real these events are. Like maybe they think, oh, that's just a story that so-and-so had happened.
Yeah, that happened
maybe
over there.
Yeah, maybe they don't realize that it happens as frequently. What has your experience been?
Well, that's the thing. For a lot of people, even though they do hear about it and it's been going on for quite some time, they still think it's kind of new. Well, I don't have anything worth stealing. No, that's not the point. You're a human with a social security number and a bank. That's it. Even if you got $1, they'll
take that dollar.
They'll take the dollar and they'll move on to using your name or your identity in some way to take out a loan, to do some other nefarious thing with it. And you just don't want to be in a position where it says, oh my goodness, what do? I've had clients that have had to had to go to the Social Security Administration, change their Social Security number because it was compromised, used in getting loans and doing whatever.
Oh, wow. And
then they're stuck. They can never use their social that they've had for 50, 80 years. Now they have to completely change it. That's more than an inconvenience. It's an upsetting event in their life that doesn't do anybody any good except for the scammers.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible.
Yeah. All for a buck.
All for the dollar. It's like I said, it's disturbing to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is upsetting, especially when we see it over and over and over again.
For sure.
I would say in this industry, sometimes it's a little hard not to get disheartened.
It is. I mean, we're tuned into the news. So my news feed has, who's breached and why and how many they're breached. You've sent me in articles that we can talk about. It's so frequent that people, like we kind of talked about, they just kind of gloss over there. It's like it's too much or there's nothing I can do. That's the other fallacy of this entire subject. It is something you can do. You have to make it difficult enough where they're just going to find somebody else who didn't do anything or who is overwhelmed and does nothing.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting point because it depends on the angle that you look at. In some aspects, there's nothing you can do, but particularly after the fact.
Yeah.
There are things like you alluded to that you can do preventatively.
Preventive.
And
yes.
if we take it seriously enough, make ourselves a harder target. I spoke about this on a previous episode. Hackers are lazy.
Yep.
They're not going to work that hard for some random person. But if you make it easy for them,
exactly,
you're just hurting yourself.
Repeating passwords, terrible. We talked about it on several different podcasts around, as well as what James just said before, that password managers, for example, are a really good idea. In fact, that's almost always recommended. Obviously, the main password should be something really, really hard and difficult or biometric. You do that on your phone, you press it and you're there. So you can do that even on a laptop, which almost always comes with fingerprint readers. You can also add that via a USB to almost any computer at any time, plug it in and use that as a way to identify yourself to get into your password manager and then fill out, and everything should be random and never reused. So I've had to do this with clients many times. I say, look, we're going to make a new password, something you've never used before, something that you can't forget and that you're going to write down and put in a special place because they don't have password managers. So I have to help them with that. So getting something as simple as that, it's one of the many ways that prevent the access that is unwanted by who knows where. It could even be a disgruntled employee or a family member that is, oh no, he's got money, I'm going to get it from him. It could be something that simple where, hey, I don't know what the password, oh, he always uses 1974. Well, not anymore. So because that will then have that one more layer of security that will allow them not to be able to get in or allow you to get in without them getting in. So anyway, there you go.
Yeah. And along those lines, so you get a notice, hey, your information has been found on the dark web. Maybe your credit card warns you, hey, this password was leaked.
Yeah.
And I think this is where people are like, well, okay, now what? Like, there's nothing I can do. They delete the email. But rather than just ignoring that, take note.
For sure.
Is one thing. And if you're following these practices of keeping different passwords, that's a big defense strategy. So
for sure.
For those of you that don't know, what happens with these breaches, say, what was it? Years ago, Target got hacked.
Yeah.
Now, I think that was credit cards, but let's say your Target online password got breached. So Target gets hacked. Your password that you use for Target.com is out there on the dark web. Criminals know what it is. Well, if you're not following this good advice and you have that same password on 10 websites or 20 websites.
Or your bank, worst case.
Or your bank. Or, what the cyber criminals do is they take that password and they try it on hundreds and thousands of websites just to see if maybe you reused it.
Yep.
And next thing you know, they're like, oh, hey, we just got into this bank account. Let's see. Now let's see what trouble we can get up to.
Yeah. Where can I transfer the money to? I mean, there's so many avenues that they can get in if you reuse your password. That's why password manager or a way to individualize the password for every site that you log into. Nowadays, that's just how it is. We live on the web. We are a internet connected world.
Yeah. I mean, in my password manager, I probably got 800 passwords.
Oh, I have at least
easily.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they're all, the password manager generates them. So they're all ridiculously long, encrypted, silly 14, 18 characters, because I don't know what they are. People, if under threat, what could I say? I don't know what they are. I really have no idea, but that's on purpose. That's by design to keep the bad guys out. But that's just one way to do it. Two-factor, multi-factor authentication, 2FA, MFA, is always recommended. But now they're saying, they used to say do it by text. Some sites only provide text. So if you log into a site, then it says we need another way to identify you or to make sure it's secure or that it's you. So then they'll send you a text or a notification. Then you click OK. Google does that for the account.
And if you're doing like online banking, you're
sure.
probably familiar with it because most banks now require it.
Yes, two-factor authentication.
You put in your password and then it sends you a code.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Or you have a code generator. Google even has that as well. Clearly, I use some Google products. And that is also random. That's changed every 30 seconds. So the chances of that being hacked is virtually impossible. I mean, if someone was to get that number, they would have 30 seconds to input that number at the exact same time that you happen to put in your password. Again, it's numerically impossible, but nothing is unhackable. That's the thing. And what we talked about with this lady from Better Business Bureau, that 98 or how many, 65%?
68%?
68%, sorry, are because people are tricked. And that's just disheartening to hear because they fell for something. Even I had a lawyer friend, we were going to talk about this. I had a lawyer friend that's what happened, and his email got hacked, and they were sending out email because they took over his entire email account to the point that he had to retire because of an email breach. Oh my goodness. Thankfully, he was ready to do that and capable, but what if it was just starting out? So he got a phishing email that said something is wrong with your password, which was, of course, wasn't true. He went to their convincing looking website, entered his password several times because they said every time it was wrong. Of course, that was the right one. They took it, logged in, locked him out of his account, completely took over his email and was sending email as a lawyer on behalf of themselves, of course, to extort money. And I got one of them. And I'm like, this is not right. Something is wrong here. I called him and we had to work through it, and it was expensive just to get his email back. But there you go. He got phished. He got scammed. Terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens all the time.
Too often.
I was speaking with a nonprofit, 2 months ago, a local nonprofit. They sent out those emails And, we offered some assistance and gave some advice to help them clean things up. Since they weren't a client, we didn't have direct involvement. But what we see is some of these basic practices still not in place. So, we talked about multi-factor authentication. This is not new advice. We've been telling people, as IT professionals, we've been telling people to do this for 5, 10 plus years. And we still find businesses that aren't doing it in their most critical accounts.
Yeah.
I've
always used that. That was easy for me to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, easy.
Well,
for
it's
you.
Easy for the hacker.
Easy for them to guess. Yeah.
And that leads us actually into the second stat of that article that we were looking at.
Okay.
Only 50% of U.S. businesses have a cybersecurity plan.
That's
now this is one of those basics that businesses and individuals. I mean, this applies individually too, but especially businesses. You need to have a plan.
Yep. Training on top of a plan, because you have to have that should go together, side by side or at the same time, that they have to recognize, okay, you need to be suspicious of this. Why? Because of these certain things. You need to recognize this is probably a phishing attack or a phishing scam. Then once you've got that training, then you say, okay, this is what this is. This came from X. Let's now say, okay, we're going to block that email. We're going to recognize that's the case. I'm going to take a screenshot to tell other employees this is what's going on so they can avoid this. So they need to have, again, like you said, a plan that specifically outlines what to do, which again is basic. This is just a draft of things that you can now go online and get help with that as well.
Use ChatGPT.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you help me write my cybersecurity policy?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think Copilot will even help you with that as well.
Yeah.
Microsoft. So there are many avenues that can be done and have this in fruition, where then you've got no issue after that. At least you know what to do. Nothing is a guarantee, but reduce your chances of getting hurt or hacked.
And there's two pieces to this plan. There's your, what we call a WISP, written information security policy. And that's going to be your do's and don'ts with sensitive information. This is how we use technology in our business. This is how we keep sensitive data secure. These are the things we do on our computers. These are the things we don't do, etc. We're going to use passwords that are this long, or we're going to use this password manager. You put all that in your WISP, but then the other piece is what to do when there's an incident. So that's going to be your security incident response plan. Which anyone who's gone through a disaster of any type, if you've had a fire in your home or a flood through your office, anyone will tell you, oh yeah. And what's the first thing? Well, I wish I had a plan. I wish I knew.
I wish I had insurance for
to
that.
do.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's another, and cybersecurity insurance is a real thing that you will have to comply with, and they will have regulations. They will have things that they can say and do on your behalf, as well as things that you'll have to do that say, okay, this has to happen. No, you can't use this password 14 times. I'm sorry. That's not going to work. You've got to use a password manager. You've got to use really good security. You've got to have a firewall set up in your router as well as on your server, or whatever the case is, whatever you're using. I have a doctor client doesn't have a server on site. Okay, fine. They use an offsite server that's web-based. Okay, great. That means all the data that's being transmitted from their system to that server has to be encrypted. Well, how do we do that? Okay, then you get a VPN. So there's steps that sound difficult, but that's why you have professionals like us to implement those things. It's granted the initial cost might be a little bit. It's going to be a whole lot cheaper than getting breached or getting your data stolen and then getting sued.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And knowing that it's important, prioritizing it in your business plan so that, take a little bit of time. I get that there's a lot to do as a business leader. And especially if you're in a small business, there's a lot of hats that you have to wear as an individual, but making sure that somewhere in your, top to-do list is, okay, I need to talk to my cybersecurity provider. I need to talk to my IT department or whatever that might look like for you. Don't let it be put on the back burner over and over and over again. It can be easy, especially since a lot of people don't understand these things, so it's hard to wrap your head around if you're not in it like we are.
Yeah. You have to ask the uncomfortable questions to whomever is responsible, your CIO or CFO, whatever the case is. Okay, how are you handling this? Do you use different passwords? Are you careful about this? Do you have multi-factor authentication? When was the last time you changed your password? Things like that they may say, if they don't know, it's too long,
Mm-hmm.
too long ago. If they don't know what password manager they're using, then they probably don't. So it's simple questions that have to be addressed in order to make a formidable opponent to these crazy cyber criminals that are out there continually 24/7 trying to get to your data. Even if you're a small business, it makes no difference. If you're a target, they'll take it. They'll take advantage of you and your data. That's the last thing you want.
Mm-hmm. And as an example, in one of the cybersecurity certifications I went through the testing and everything for more recently, in the training material, their example was a coffee shop.
Okay.
And I thought that was really great because that might be like the last type of business you'd think, oh, they need to have good cybersecurity. They're just a coffee shop. They, they're probably using a Square terminal to take cards, and right. It's pretty basic.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the example they used of how even a quote unquote simple business could apply good cybersecurity practices to help them continue running. All of us in this day and age rely so heavily on computer systems of some sort.
Yep.
I mean, if you can't at least get a smartphone with apps at a minimum, then you're not going to run a very effective business, if at all.
Not in this modern world. I had past tense a large doctor's office that I was trying to get them to get on board with Rocket Cyber, one of our partners that we work with, and they said, "Well, we feel that we're at low risk." You're a doctor's office with 20 systems, and you're at low risk. You're on the web. You're not. If you're on the web, you're not at low risk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the problem with this kind of conversation is it might seem that everyone should be scared all the time. That's not good, because then you avoid things, you avoid doing things, and you don't really actually get anything done that way.
Yeah, you don't take advantage of the positives of technology.
Right,
if you're too scared. Yeah.
You're just too scared to use it, and that's not good either. But if you're on web, because who isn't? I mean, any kind of shopping, Amazon, whatever the case is, you're still at risk to some degree. So without taking it seriously, it's going to get worse instead of better. It doesn't fix itself. It doesn't just go away. It just gets worse over time, sadly.
Yeah, if you just ignore the problem, it's not gonna
go away.
Not gonna go away.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want people to be scared of cybersecurity, or it's too big of a problem for them to fix, because it isn't. Again, with the right tools, it can be as little as $1 a day to at least have something in place that will give you a way to prevent bad things from happening. Or if there is something that might happen, for not that much more, you can have what they call an SOC, a Security Operations Center, and they can step in your behalf. I've said this to my clients for years. I'm sure you have too. I don't know everything. I can't have connections to everything on the planet. Nobody does. And if they say they know everything, they're lying. So I have a team of people and good friends like you who help me if there's an issue. And not knowing the right answer isn't the problem. Not knowing the right question that will lead you to the right answer, that's what we do, because you can't possibly know everything. Finding the right resources and having the right tools that are good enough to handle these kinds of things is far better. Is there a silver bullet, a guarantee? No, nothing in life is that way.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you've got tools and plans in place to make sure these kinds of things don't happen.
And I've heard some IT providers say, "Oh, use us, you won't get hacked. Run far away."
Yeah, because they're guaranteeing impossible things.
There's a reason that we use layers, and we still recommend cyber insurance.
Yeah.
The goal of a of a good cybersecurity plan is not to guarantee that you won't get hacked, but
Impossible.
instead, all right, let's minimize the damage. If and when we get hacked, let's make sure it is less damaging to our organization.
Mitigate.
Let's make sure we can survive it,
Mhm.
and let's make sure we can get back up and running more smoothly.
Exactly. Downtime is awful. When you think about what's happened, this was something I thought was interesting on MGM. The story behind the MGM hack has nothing, it's the hotel. It has nothing to do with the fact that maybe you're gambling or not. It has nothing to do with that. What happened was someone impersonated an IT person and called the front desk, had someone put in an admin password, they were in.
Well, they called the IT help desk. Didn't they?
IT help desk.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
So they were talking to IT,
Oh,
who let them in.
my goodness.
Yeah.
But you see, that's that statistic that we were reading there, the first one, 68%. It might be more, I don't know, but that caused, $300 million in like a day? I mean,
it was something outrageous.
It was an incredibly large amount.
I mean, because an organization like that, they every minute they're down.
Yeah. And that's the problem. I mean, every computer screen and gambling machine and ATM was saying, sorry, out of order. And they had like a Windows alert. It was pathetic. But again, it was preventable by having the right plan in place. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a plan,
then you're planning to fail.
Then you're planning to fail.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was in there somewhere, but anyway, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah, that MGM hack, it reminded me that someone somewhere was not teaching that employee the right policies and procedures. There should have been some checks and balances that were kind of hammered home for that employee, and it's not a failure on that employee as much as I say as an organization.
I would agree with you. When I go into Dado, for example, some of my the secure tools, they send me a verification email to a registered email that has a completely random code that I have to tell it back to them. If something,
just when you're getting help on the phone,
just when I'm getting help, not for accessing anything, just help. That would have been the one simple thing that could have been done for that employee. She should have said, where's the verification email? How come you don't have, because they wouldn't have been able to provide that. So it's all those simple little steps that can make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Anyway. And that's why we talk about back to basics. These are the things that we hear about, and a lot of people, I think, are like, well, that's not my responsibility. That's the IT. The IT department will take care of that.
Yeah.
IT is responsible for a lot. We do take care of a lot of things for people on their behalf, but we can't make you have policies and procedures that you're going to enforce. Even if we wrote them for you, we can't make all the employees follow them. That's on leadership.
Yep. And training. If people were aware that, okay, this has become, right now what's happening is there's this particular phishing email that's going out. And therefore, you need to be aware of this. So don't click on this, even though it looks like it came from our vendor. Please don't click on that. It's a awareness and awareness training as well that will help them to understand, no, this is probably not good. Hey, Mr. Boss Man, is this okay? Should I click on this? It's not going to hurt to ask. It won't be, you won't be fired if you ask, at least hopefully not.
Well, maybe you don't need to work there if you're going to get fired over that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, and again, this is the fourth point that she made here. 8 out of 10 organizations are likely to have at least one employee fall victim to a phishing attempt.
80%.
Yeah, that's insane. Because again, it's convincing. Let's give them some credit because they're getting better at spelling. So they're good about how they
ChatGPT made that worse.
There you go. Yeah. So they're using AI against us. Okay, fine. But at the same time, are they being trained to recognize, okay, this is not good? And that's the main way they're getting attacked. I get spam emails all the time. Oddly enough, it always comes from Susan something. I don't know why they're using Susan. But anyway, they're constantly sending me junk that they think I'll be dumb enough to click on. And of course, it goes to spam and goes away. And I get 10 or 20 a day because my email is out there. Okay, paulo@politech.com. It's out there again. But there you go. And if you have any kind of public email a business that should have some kind of public email, even if it's just welcome at so-and-so or hello from so-and-so, that's out there public. They're going to try to make an attack against you.
Everyone's a target.
Everyone's a target. If they have an email, especially if it's public, oh my goodness. Yeah, they're out there.
So use a password manager.
Please.
Give your employees a password manager.
Make them
everyone,
use it.
And everyone should have their own. We need to use those good passwords that the password manager provides you, set up multi-factor. But I would say most of this boils down to create some policies, have a plan.
Yeah.
Because part of that plan will be to use that password manager, and everything else, kind of flows downhill from there. So, what advice would you have for a business that wants to take cybersecurity more seriously, but they need a place to get started? So they want to implement some policies.
All right. I'm glad you asked that question. It can be something as simple as, again, like you talked about, password manager, biometric security. That's fine. But if they need some kind of guidance, they're going to have to talk to professionals like us, people who do this for a living, and who are adept with the tools that are available out there. Like I mentioned, it can be as little as $1 a day. That will give them a tool in place that even if something is breached, it'll help to mitigate that. The tool I use can actually have an isolation. So in other words, it won't be able to spread the malware, which is real. It does go out there. It can be brought into one computer and spread through the network. That really does happen. And if it's brought into a system, the software can say it recognizes it, that it's malicious. It can isolate the computer with the exception of going to the control board or the dashboard that can say, okay, this is a problem. We're going to isolate it. We're going to kill it and clean it. And then we'll release it back to the network. So there are tools that have been out there that are even getting more sophisticated to recognize these kinds of things. They're using AI and algorithms for you instead of against you. That can then say, okay, I'm not sure what this is, but this is suspicious. This is highlighted as suspicious activity, which I've seen on my dashboard. We have to stop this. We have to identify this, isolate it, remediate it, and then bring it back online. All without taking the entire system out and isolating the one problem before it becomes unmanageable, because we don't want that.
Yeah, certainly. And those tools, it's like, anything. You go into the toolbox, and if you don't know how to use the tools,
exactly, you're going to hurt yourself.
So I would say, don't go out there and just buy the first SOC service that you find,
right?
Without understanding what you're getting into.
Yeah.
But there are these tools at our disposal to make things easier, to keep you protected.
For sure.
But knowledge is power. Start with that plan.
Always.
Start write it down. Write it down.
Yeah.
Make sure you and your employees are all trained on what you've decided, and then get a partner that can help advise you on how to keep up with these things, and a partner who can implement some of the more technical pieces and keep you on that journey. But the best thing to do is to start
somewhere. You got to start somewhere. You can't avoid it. As we said, it's not going to get any better, and it's not going to get easier in the sense that if you're waiting until something bad happens, pay now or pay later costs more. It's always been that way. And the advantage is you're doing me a favor. How is that? Well, if you don't have a virus, I don't have a virus. If you don't have malware, I don't have malware. Or at least it's a lot less likely to happen. Yep. So instead of your computer becoming a spam bot unknowingly, or your server becoming a porn bot, which would be awful, that's how you prevent that, and it won't go and spread around to the nation. So that's how these bad actors act. They take over systems to proliferate all the other bad things. They just kind of, that old shampoo commercial, and so on and so on. And maybe you're too young for that. Anyway, the whole point is they want to propagate whatever their bad stuff is, and they will take over your system. They don't care if you're just a single mother with one kid. They don't care. If they can take over your system or take advantage of it to do other bad things, they will, because you've
Yeah.
made it easy
So,
for
so
them.
if you say, "Oh, I don't have anything for them to take," well, you've got a computer.
Yeah.
They can use that.
They'll use it against you and whoever else they want to use it against. So you do have something. So, this is the same thing as when you drive. You assume you take the risks when you drive. You put your seatbelt on. You make sure if you have airbags that they're functioning. You try to take care of your car, your tires, and your brakes. Hopefully you do those kinds of things. But that doesn't guarantee you that some drunk idiot isn't going to hit you. But at least you have your seatbelt on. At least you have the airbags working.
You're
drive
doing your due
defensively.
diligence.
You're doing everything that you can.
Yeah.
Your due diligence will to protect yourself, because that's the issue. People aren't protecting themselves as if they were driving. They're driving without a seatbelt, or they're driving with doors open and unlocked. You don't want it to make it that easy for them to get hurt. And that's really what it boils down to.
Mhm.
Don't get hurt by these bad actors.
Yeah. So take the basics.
Yeah.
Take them seriously. Start writing down what you're going to do to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And we're almost out of time, but I want to get your it's my new favorite question. Professionally and personally. So 2 questions. What's your favorite tech in your life?
You know what? I like my folding phone. I mean, it's become
I'm a little bit jealous.
Yeah, it's a mini laptop. That definitely is helping me, because I can be anywhere. I have a little mouse for it as well. So when I'm remoting into systems, obviously it's encrypted both ways, and I can do whatever I need to do anywhere that I am. That makes a huge difference. So if there's an issue, it can be dealt with quickly. And if I can't, the sock that you bought your sock, right? And I don't mean these things. I mean Security Operations Center that can help you mitigate the issue 24/7. So between those kinds of things, that's definitely my favorite.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Paulo, for coming on.
Happy to be
It's been
here.
a wonderful pleasure.
Happy to talk with you. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's been another episode of Out of the Dark. Don't forget your basics of cybersecurity. Stay safe out there. I'm your host, Niles Benghauser. I'll see you next time.